So, it's 2 days later than normal, obviously. So,
Sorry.
I kind of wish there had been a whole other week because this was not something that I was keen on coming back to.
Nope.
I was actually dreading coming back from North Carolina because I knew as soon as I got here I would be laying eyes on Get Hard. And I was dreading it the whole time. Because, as you can probably guess, the first time I actually heard about this, I was perusing around Reddit for some reason, and I came across this picture where it said first image of Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell in Get Hard, and I was like, oh my god, that's like the worst, that could possibly be the worst thing that's ever happened to me, is them doing a movie together and working together to make me miserable. Each doing their own thing to do so. And I clicked on the picture, and it was the one of Kevin Hart, you know, with a worried look on his face, and Will Ferrell in his orange Lil Wayne gear. And the top comment said everything.
Alright.
The top comment on this post was, well, this is getting a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. And yeah, that's about where that's about where my mind was at as well. I don't know how it's on Rotten Tomatoes, but the point is, you pretty much knew it was gonna suck the second you heard about it, and what was involved, and what the plot was, and everything. Well, the thing about it is, Will Ferrell is this really, really rich dude who he's, you know, engaged to Alison Brie, and he has this really wonderful life. He's just been promoted, and everything's going wonderfully, and then Kevin Hart, has a family, and he runs this really, you know, mediocre car wash within Will Ferrell's building, and he just kind of gets brushed off every day. But he has big plans to be a big car wash place or something. Well, it turns out that Will Ferrell has been convicted of like fraud and embezzlement and all that other rich guy crime stuff. And he's going to go to prison for 10 years. So he gets the help of Kevin Hart to toughen him up before he goes in. Okay, for starters, to talk about what's wrong here, let me tell you the reason, it's probably in the trailer if I had to guess, but the reason Will Ferrell recruits him is because Kevin Hart walks up to his window to give him his keys that he dropped, and he's wearing his hood, and because, the movie just tells you, because he's black, Will Ferrell thinks he's being carjacked. And there are a lot of jokes like that among this is one of those movies where it gets a couple of select jokes and then just milks the fuck out of them for the entire runtime.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, okay. The very first scene of the movie lets you know what it is. This is one of those movies yet again. How old is Old School now? 2003?
Oh my god.
Is it? Is that right?
Sounds right.
It is now 2015, and this movie immediately wants us to think that naked Will Ferrell is still funny.
2 times in the first 7 minutes.
So that gets you off immediately. And it's, I'm going to be, what I really hate about this the most is it's so derivative of other already bad movies as jokes that I feel like I'm just going to have to like lift things that I said from other reviews to talk about Get Hard. I think, and from the people that are in this, there are a couple of Kevin Hart movies that I didn't like, and the same problems I have with those are come back here, and they're not even him. That's, I think it was About Last Night. I'm having to go all the way to the beginning of last year to remember this. I think it was About Last Night that I was criticizing for trying way too hard to be raunchy and dirty, and thinking that it was, when it was just, you know, just the normal bullshit. And because there is a sex scene of sorts with Will Ferrell and Alison Brie, where basically he's just screaming dirty words at her, like dick and titties and cock and shit.
Steve Carell and the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
And Yeah, he goes into the whole screaming a random celebrity's name is funny because Steve Carell did it 11 years ago or so. Or no, it would have been 10 probably. I think 40 over it's 2005.
Dude, years going by too fast for me, man.
I know. And it's just like, you can this is, like I said, this is one of those movies where, for this generation, like the younger generation, like the people who are like 15 or so right now, this is that movie where they'll be popular at school if they sneak into it and tell everybody about it the next day.
I can see that.
Because it was so dirty, because they said so many dirty words like dick and cock and titties. And half of Will Ferrell's screen time in this is just screaming body parts. It's
just trash talking, apparently.
Now listen. I know what you might be thinking if you're trying to defend this movie. You're telling me that I went into a movie starring Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart that is called Get Hard. So I pretty much got what I knew I was in store for. Well, like I told you at the beginning, I knew how I was going to feel about this movie before I went in, which is something I really don't like doing. But this is just one of those movies where it was inevitable. So, another thing, while we're on the subject of Alison Brie, there is a trend that's happening now. I mean, it's always been around, but it seems to be really popular lately. That subplot where somebody's getting married and they're like an average looking guy, like they're not particularly attractive, but the fiance is played by an actress that is like really, really hot, and she ends up being like this evil gold digger that, you know, just wants him for his money and will eventually get her comeuppance at the end. Kevin Hart just did this in The Wedding Ringer, and it's already back again. And it seems like more than ever that is a plot line, especially comedies. Like, so many comedies resort to that subplot. What is it? What else do they have to say about it that this of all things, this plot is the one that keeps getting recycled over and over and over again in comedies? I am not really sure. Why you showing me pictures of Walk Hard?
It's the Jenna Fisher character. That's who Alison Brie's playing. It's almost ripped completely from it.
Oh, God.
Same, like, lingerie style and everything.
Yeah. And, speaking of recycled plots, his boss is the fiance's dad. I would keep Craig T. Nelson in the witness protection program of this review, but...
Coach is coming back.
His name's out there now. So, there's not really a plot line we haven't hit yet that is new ground. But the trouble is that this movie does nothing to better itself from what it's lifting. Like, I can't tell you one thing that this movie did right. Because, you know, what's the one I really, Grudge Match.
Oh.
There were portions of Grudge Match that I liked, and I was able to single them out after we saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in movies. Like, I think there were a couple of Think Like a Man lines that Kevin Hart had that I was able to single out.
Yeah.
There was not one to be had here. They were really trying with that Boys in the Hood scene, but you know, I couldn't get the image out of my head of them like filming Ride Along 2 and Ice Cube saying something like, "Hey, Kevin, make yourself useful. Talk about one of my good movies and one of your shitty ones." That'll elevate it a little bit. Quit talking to Korean Jesus.
He's got Korean problems.
So yeah, nothing comes out. And talking about Will Ferrell doing the same shit over and over again, I can't... Okay, look, listen. To my understanding, obviously if you watch like Stranger Than Fiction and stuff like that, Will Ferrell's actually shown that he can be a really good actor.
He can.
And he can be a comedic genius, like he showed 2006 and back. But the issue here is that ever since Step Brothers and Semi-Pro kind of came out like a few months apart, and that's when he really lost me. I know a lot of people love Step Brothers. I am so not one of those people.
Yeah.
And ever since then, every time I see Will Ferrell is in a movie, I just get this sense of dread inside me, where I just know this is not gonna go well. And it gets even worse when it pours out into reality. Whenever he's on a talk show, or he's at some award show, he always has to be doing an unfunny comedy bit. And it's like, to my understanding, he's like really, really intelligent. Like, he collects really expensive art and shit. But every single time Will Ferrell does something, he has to be doing some unfunny comedy bit that gets stretched out for way too long and always falls flat. And that's exactly what his movies are for a straight 90 minutes. So, I always say, I think Talladega Nights was probably the last one that I really loved. Everything after that.
Anchorman 2 had its moments.
Yeah, I gave Anchorman 2 a positive review when we did the video.
Yeah, I remember that.
But since then, I haven't revisited it, and the only thing I can remember about it is the stuff that I didn't like. So, that's becoming an issue.
That's not good.
All I remember is that stupid fucking lighthouse bit with the shark, and the singing, and the blindness, and the...
Well, the blindness is what everybody doesn't like, so...
Well, anyway, speaking of Anchorman 2, he's already doing that shit again. Remember the scene in Anchorman 2 when he's at the dinner table, and he's making all the racially ignorant comments just because that's the time that it was?
Yeah.
That's his whole character in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's the white guy, so he doesn't know how to fist bump properly. They do that a couple of times. Now... But you know what? All the race jokes aside, Kevin Hart's character addresses at the very beginning that the whole thing is going to be in stereotypes, as if that makes it all better. Because Will Ferrell assumes that Kevin Hart has been to prison because he's black. So he says, okay, he tells his wife, okay, I'll just do all the stereotypes so he'll think I've been to prison, and that'll be it. No, it's not that easy. Because the issue is, it's not like, it's not offensive, like, traditional, like, oh, this is so wrong. It just does the shit thinking that it's pushing the limit. But it's all really old, played out shit. That doesn't... You gotta go a lot farther than this nowadays. But they just kind of scratch the surface of, oh my god, we're being so edgy right now. And it doesn't work. The whole, like the whole cafe of gay guys, with that scene in the stall that's not worth talking about. All that. And while we're on that subject, it's worth noting right now that the entire... Okay, you know how long the joke has been around that if you go to prison, you get raped in the showers. There's a movie that nobody remembers with Dax Shepard from 2006 called Let's Go to Prison. And the poster is just a bar of soap. And that movie failed miserably.
Oh, yeah.
Even if Michael Shannon was in it, still, it's a movie that failed miserably and nobody remembers it because it was a one-joke movie. That one joke, the you will get raped in prison joke, is the whole setup of this entire movie. It's the entire reason that this movie exists.
Yeah.
That is the reason he hires Kevin Hart to toughen him up before he goes into prison. Apparently he hasn't seen stuff like A Prophet, because much worse things happen in prison than just that. You want to get really, really recent? Show him fucking Start Up. That's what he should be worried about. But nope, if you go to prison, you get raped there, and that's hilarious, so let's make a whole goddamn movie around that one joke. And as you know, because it's Kevin Hart and because it's Will Ferrell, it's one of those movies where every single joke is so goddamn funny, it'll be stretched out beyond all possible limits until they think they've milked it completely dry, and then they'll go a couple more minutes before they go to the next scene. And that's, I don't even have one to single out there. There's, there's the scene where they, Kevin Hart has basically redone Will Ferrell's house. I have no idea how he did that, but he's redone Will Ferrell's house to make it look like a prison, and they're on the tennis court, because it's the yard, and that's where all the dangerous stuff happens. You think they had never seen at least a prison movie in their life, but
Yeah.
But regardless, this is when Kevin Hart becomes other personalities that are going to threaten Will Ferrell. You have the black guy and you have the Mexican named Carlos. And this scene felt like it went on for goddamn ever.
Yeah.
I thought this scene would never end, thus making this movie never end, thus making me want to just jump off the highest thing as soon as possible. But we're not done yet. Oh yeah, another thing. Talking about this is kind of a weird example to use, but
Okay.
there is a very famous scene in The King's Speech that actually serves a purpose. And it's obviously the only reason that movie is rated R. The scene where Jeffrey Rush convinces Colin Firth to just scream obscenities.
Yes.
To kind of free himself. They kind of try something like that here. Should I even bother saying the words Will Ferrell is no Colin Firth? Wow. Okay. Well, basically to be tough, remember how I was talking about at the beginning where they're trying to be super, super dirty, so they just say dirty words? Well, there happens to be a prolonged scene much later where Will Ferrell is trying to build up how tough he is, so the exercise is to just scream fuck and dick and cock into... I don't even know what the purpose of that was, but it's to basically... Yes. It doesn't matter.
Work on your trash talk.
Oh, shut. It just does. No. But anyway, we're not done taking from other movies yet. For starters, as you probably know, I was listening to the trailer when it would go by, when it was attached to movies. And what I said to you was it reminded me of a feature-length version of the prison scenes in The New Guy. Does anybody remember The New Guy? I keep forgetting. I have no idea like what our little demographic is. Because The New Guy's long into obscurity now, but it was the bee's knees when I was in school.
I remember that.
That would have been 2002 because it came out with Spider-Man. Where DJ Qualls goes to prison with Eddie Griffin, and Eddie Griffin has to toughen him up, so he's some really cool guy that all the girls want when he gets out. And yeah, that's basically what it is. But we're not done yet, because now we're going a year later. Now we're going to 2003. We're actually going back to 2003, because we started there when we talked about Old School. God. People give Vince Vaughn a hard time for his movies seeming like they should have been years ago, but look at this shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so Will Ferrell comes out in his little wing gear, the orange and the print and all that. Can I be totally honest with you? Though this movie is kind of a guilty pleasure, and it's another movie that was really, really, really popular when it came out. Will Ferrell coming out dressed like that, going into the hood, that was still a little lame 12 years ago when Steve Martin did it in Bringing Down the House. Yeah.
Jamie Kennedy is B-Rad.
Oh, don't even go to Malibu's Most Wanted. Leave that out of this.
There.
Get that away from me. Get Malibu's Most Wanted as far away from me as possible. You asked me a long time ago to try to do a bottom 10 movies of all time list in a video.
Yes.
That shit was gonna be on it. Keep that away from me.
Viewers, if you want to see a bottom list, say something.
No, please don't. So, we have explored all of the lame jokes from 2002 and 2003.
Yes.
And we're putting them with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart in a movie in 2015 where it's gonna fail even harder. These movies were 13 years ago, and Will Ferrell cannot get away from it. I know Kevin Hart's still in his I'm on top of the world phase now, but
Hopefully that ends soon.
why do I feel like the only person that sees through Will Ferrell's bullshit? People still... He does that... Because he does that thing every time I skipped the other guys is okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
But there's a lot of people in the other guys that make it work. If it had just been Will Ferrell by himself doing that character, the other guys would have been bottom of the barrel bullshit. But it had Wahlberg, it had Dwayne Johnson, it had Samuel Jackson, it had Michael Keaton. So many other great things going on. Steve Coogan's in it.
Very true.
But Will Ferrell has that thing again where he has to... It's the thing he uses in every goddamn movie ever, where something happens to him, and then he has to overly explain what is happening to him while it's happening to him. He hasn't gone away from that yet. Now, and the worst part of it all is all of this stuff I've been saying. All of the reused jokes, all the things that still don't work, the fact that not a single thing in this movie works at all, ever. Not even once. Not one line. Nothing.
I like one thing from the movie.
The whole point is that the movie's called Get Hard. And we have to get to the very last scene of the movie for that joke to pay off. Where he gets out of prison and Kevin Hart says, "You got through it because you got hard." And Will Ferrell has to shake his head and say, "No, man, you got me hard." And not only have we built up to that lame-ass payoff this whole time, he says it over and over and over and over again in the span of 20 seconds before the movie finally ends. Who is responsible for this?
That would be...
He's a writer, and yet please don't mistake him for Ethan Coen.
Oh, I'm definitely
not. For the love of God. Oh my God. So yeah, he's like a writer on Tropic Thunder, which makes no sense.
Tropic Thunder.
He must have been okay. I understand. Okay, I can explain how he's a writer on Tropic Thunder, because the main writers of Tropic Thunder were Ben Stiller and Justin Theroux. Here's what happened. Remember when the Wayans brothers made Scary Movie? And Freeberg and Seltzer were writers on it too. And Scary Movie is this really funny and really clever parody of the horror movies that were popular in the 90s. And every now and then there's a really stupid lame joke in there that just shouldn't be in there because it's dumb as fuck. And you can tell that that was Freeberg and Seltzer and not the Wayans brothers. Or whoever the other two writers were. Here, I get the feeling that all the really funny, clever stuff in Tropic Thunder is Ben Stiller and Justin Theroux. And if there were any, none come to mind, but if there were any lame jokes that shouldn't have been in Tropic Thunder, Danny McBride's dialogue, maybe.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure was just him ad-libbing, so I don't know who to blame that on. But, yeah, I imagine it wasn't too much. That, or he used all of his juice for Tropic Thunder, and now it's gone. I don't know. I think I saw Men in Black 3 up there, though, which is really impressive for them. Yeah, I really like Men in Black 3.
Same here.
Especially since they had to, write the movie on the fly while they were filming. It's really impressive the movie came out as good as it did, knowing that. But yeah, there is not one good thing to say about this movie. And everything I do have to say that's bad about it, it doesn't get worse than this.
I like the John Mayer cameo, but that's because I'm a fan.
Yeah, that's the thing. If all else fails, you get a cameo. Yeah, great. Okay. Our second movie is Home. A movie that DreamWorks really wanted us to know about because it was teased to us through a short called Almost Home that they put on 2 movies. Because it started on Mr. Peabody and Sherman. And then we saw a second DreamWorks movie that I can't remember. And I remember saying to you, I really feel like we've seen this before. On something else. That's how unmemorable it was. It was halfway through the short before I had to say, I think we've seen this before. So there's that. Now, we have this... Okay. The main plot is we have an alien race who comes to Earth, and they pick up all of the humans, and they put them on Australia so they can take over the rest of the world. And that's about it. And they have an enemy in the sky that's kind of like the guy from Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. But, And there's a lot of little plots in this movie sprinkled around in between. I was a little worried because when it started... I mean, I don't hate this movie or anything. The movie I'm building up to. Because it's not very good, though. I was a little worried because when we were being introduced to the aliens and seeing their little world and seeing, like, what they do and stuff like that, it felt so much like B-movie.
Just a bit.
It looked like the same world, only instead of, like, honey and stuff everywhere, it was, like, alien shit. So, now, I understand what they were going for here, because they were trying to kind of create, like, a unique alien race. Like, they put so much thought into the way these aliens are. I kind of felt like they wanted to, like, make a franchise or something. Let's hope not. Because they they have their own way of speaking, they have their own dialect, and they have this thing where they're like a walking mood ring. They change colors to, like, represent their mood and shit. You know, Inside Out's just, like, a few months away. Where I'm sure we'll get a much better version of that.
Oh, yeah.
We're introduced to a lot of vague story points in rapid succession. Like, I know this is a movie that's meant for, like, really, really, really small kids. But, so, you know, the attention span thing's they're gonna make that apparent. But, this movie is all over the goddamn place most of the time.
Yeah.
And there are so many different stories going on, but they're so simple, you know, it doesn't really make a difference. And well, first off, the one thing that got to me immediately was the one thing this movie has going for it is the lead character is okay. The lead character is an alien named O, voiced by Jim Parsons, and I was confused because the whole setup is that everybody hates him. Like, his entire race hates him. Like, because he's different. But the problem was just, you know, I think we're supposed to think that he's annoying. But the only reason we get why people hate him is because he walks up to him and says, "Hello!" That's, like, all he does.
Yeah.
It's like, why do they hate him so much? All he does is say hello, but I think we're supposed to think he's really, really annoying, but he's not really. He's just really, really friendly.
Some people find that annoying, though. I can understand that.
He seemed harmless, though.
He was fine.
That's all he did was say hello, and the whole planet hated him. So that immediately had me confused. Because they didn't seem like they were, like, telling us, you know, giving us enough reason to, you know, why his entire race would hate him, because that's the whole point. And the plot of this movie, if they had stuck to one plot, this would have been a 1 hour long movie that actually would have been really funny.
Yeah.
Because the first big plot is the fact that, obviously there's that villain that's out in space somewhere looking for them, and he wants to destroy them. So what happens is, once they land on Earth and they all get settled in, O decides he's going to throw himself a big house party. A housewarming party. And he goes to send his Evite to his friend Kyle, who's actually not his friend, but he thinks it's his best friend. But he accidentally sends the Evite to everybody, like, in the universe. Which means that, and it gives, you know, strict directions to their place.
Turn the Milky Way, here's my balloons, there's my friend Kyle.
And the villain gets the Evite.
Yeah, he does.
So they have to stop the Evite, because it goes all the way to the end of the universe. They have to stop the Evite from getting to him, so they have to cancel it before it can get to him. That's a really funny plot by itself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they make it a whole conflict. But the trouble is there's a whole lot of other shit in here. There's the story of he meets a human girl. This confused me because somehow she wasn't taken in the invasion, and we never learn how she wasn't.
She was not left behind. She's hiding.
So there's that, and then but they just vacuumed everybody up. How did one person stay behind? And her cat too.
Maybe they didn't have enough room for her in, like, the pods. That's the only thing I could think of.
It doesn't matter.
That's why we're doing these reviews.
Okay, they kidnap all of Earth, and they run out of room for one person.
Yes.
That's the theory you're going with?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the issue here, obviously, is, though we have that one little funny setup, it's trying to be really funny throughout, but It's Sunday right now. It's the first showing Sunday, so there was a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And we were in one of the big theaters. A lot of silence in there.
Dead silence.
There's one, we were introduced to Steve Martin's character, who's like their leader, and he's doing the Dr. Evil thing with the chair.
He also did the Groot thing with the thing.
He's on a platform, and he's trying to be right here, and he keeps going too low, and he keeps going too high. And they do this forever until he finally gets settled in the right position. And nobody, not even the little kids, are laughing.
Nope.
And when I hear this silence, I'm watching Steve Martin, desperate for laughs up here doing this, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, this is going to be horrible. This is going to be a really embarrassing experience for everybody in here. It keeps itself afloat more than that, and people did start laughing. Eventually, I don't know if it was out of pity or they were bored, so they wanted to pretend they were enjoying it, and eventually, hopefully, convince themselves that they were. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, we have the human character who's voiced by Rihanna, even though she's supposed to be like 12. That was weird casting.
Yeah.
And she has to find her mom, who they hired Jennifer Lopez to perform like 5 lines. And she's in Australia, and I guess they're in the US. And then that villain ends up finding them anyway. This was the problem that I had with it, was you have all this stuff going on. If you have a whole lot of plots going on, the best idea is to kind of wrap them up simultaneously into one nice little bow. But you have to have made the plots, cohesive enough that they can, they can likely all come together at once to make just one big ending. But this movie doesn't like that idea. So we are an hour into the movie, and he finally cancels the Evite just in time. And he's just canceling the Evite, and it feels like this big, high stakes climax. That's why I think if the movie had just ended there and that would have been the whole plot, and the movie only would have been an hour long, this would have been a really, really funny yet short animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that easy, because after we have canceled the Evite, after we have that one big problem out of the way, we have a whole other thing going on where they have to go find her mom in Australia. Now, I was thinking, okay, well, we just have like a really quick montage of them getting to Australia, and then we see them, going, yay, because the big plot was stopping the guy from coming and blowing the universe up. But no, we have the whole ride there. It's like a whole road trip comedy in itself after the first thing has already been taken care of. And the movie keeps going. And then once they get to Australia, they have to look for her. And then there's at one point where they fucking break up. And it's like, oh, you lied to me. And oh, you're not who I thought you were. Oh, we're going to part ways, but don't worry, we'll be friendly later. This is all going on after we already had a perfectly fine ending.
Yeah. It overstays its welcome.
And then, once they finally find the mom, the villain comes back, and we have to have a whole other climax going on. And then we get to a point to where we actually have to, that this is one of my least favorite cliches in the history of all time. It's that cliche at the end of almost every movie ever made, where they want us to believe that the main character is dead, and all the characters get really sad until we realize that he's alive. I hate that so much. I hate that goddamn thing. But it will never die, ever. Oh yeah, there's also a night where they get stuck because their car breaks down. This is all after the Evite has been cancelled. God damn it, why couldn't they have ended it with the Evite cancellation? That would have been so much better. But one thing, I knew this was going to be off, though, because I was telling you, once again, not watching the trailers, just hearing them, there was already a joke that pissed me off. Like, I went into this movie knowing there was one joke that I already didn't like.
Yeah.
And they loved it so much, they brought it back. Which is weird, because I hate when comedies do that. They get so arrogant about a certain joke, they keep bringing it back because they think audiences will eat it up every time. Animated movies are the absolute worst about that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see movies do that the way animated movies do. They are the fucking worst.
You will laugh.
About milking jokes over and over and over again if they think they're a hit with audiences. They'll do it in the trailers, and then they'll do it in the movie like 5 more times.
Sometimes you'll get the laugh both places.
I'm talking about the scene where, and if any of you are my friends, you will know where this comes from. One of the jokes is that when O hears music, he automatically starts dancing and he can't control himself. That's his reaction to music. And he's like, oh my god, what is this? What's happening to my body? Am I gonna die? This is a joke from the first season of Third Rock from the Sun. And they're... Not only do they use that joke, but they were fucking aliens in that too.
Yeah.
And they used the joke twice. They bring it back at the end, and all the fucking aliens have that reaction. And they just shamelessly lifted it directly. Remember the episode where Harry joined the CD club and he got the 12 CDs that he felt it was absolutely mandatory that he listened to every single one of them? Remember that episode? Yep. This movie is stealing jokes from a show that started in 1996, I think. Wow. Yes. So this week's just been all about going and getting jokes from God knows how long ago that have long since worn out their welcome. And you know what? Third Rock from the Sun ran for however many seasons. They used that joke once. That one time. This movie was 90 minutes. Oh, God. So, yes. However, you know, it's harmless, you know. It's not, it's not, like, if you take your children to it, they'll be fine, It's not gonna, like, dumb them down or anything. It's just not very good, and it's really not very funny. Though it had the chance to be with that one plotline. I really love the Evite storyline. I think that's funny as hell.
You didn't mention the name, though. That's the one thing that annoyed the crap out of me.
Yeah, her name's Gratuity, but they call her Tip. Get it?
That's stupid.
It's whatever. There were much dumber things in Get Hard.
I totally agree with that. This was a bad week for movies, which I didn't think it would. Well, there was a chance for it to be something redeeming, but unfortunately we haven't got it yet.
Well, we got Furious 7 coming next week, and I think that's going to be hardcore. So
yeah, it should be really good.
I've had to avoid trailers and TV spots and advertisements on the internet and everything like fucking crazy. It's like the plague follow me around like, watch one, just watch one. Come on, just watch this really cool scene before you see it in the movie, please.
You realize you were in a big city, though. That's kind of unavoidable sometimes. Especially where you were. Come on. That's all they do is show movie clips.
Yeah, Planet Hollywood played the trailer that felt like it was 10 minutes long. I was like, for God's sake, does this fucking end?
Our Planet Hollywood in Orlando has like a DJ and stuff, and usually we have music, not that many trailers.
Oh, God. But I have avoided it since, so I think everything will be fine. IMDb is really trying to do me in. There's one where it's just a screen that's like this big, and it's playing the trailer. It's like,
oh, that's horrible.
Go the fuck away from me!
Sometimes you can't close out of those things, and they're kind of stuck in the corner of the
I just
screen.
have to scroll down really fast every time I see it.
Oh, God.
So, because it's like, they show like Furious 7, and then next to it you can see where like the trailer's like getting ready to come on, like it's buffering or something. So it gives me time to run away.
We'll be watching that Friday.
Yes.
Officially now.
Okay.
So what we got?
We're done here.
What we got for star amounts?
Get Hard is getting 1.
Of course it is. Shock surprise.
There's a 1 every week now. God.
Yep. Next week will not be any different. Actually, next week probably will be different.
Home is 1.5. I was gonna be generous and give it 2, but
okay, then I'll just okay. All right. So, hope you enjoyed your triple shot of AJ this week. Because we had the regular reviews we had, which didn't do very well, but it happens sometimes. These are like limited releases. And the Versus was yesterday. We've got this today, and next week Fury 7. So continue to watch the various the content on Pop, and we are going to be doing Ashley and myself are doing a WrestleMania video this week, so that's coming up. Of course, tomorrow, Ashley's Gaming with Ash segment will return, and we also have the Vlog of Randomness, Sip and Snack, and AJ's movie reviews versus Back to Game, and obviously there's going to be Halloween Horror Nights stuff coming real soon, too. So stay tuned to our Pop. Thank you guys and girls up there for watching. AJ, any parting words?